Nathan's combat class with Jason had turned dangerous. Nathan never backed out of a fight, but today was personal.
One day, I'll make your father my slave and piss on him.
And that was when Nathan lost his cool. Little did Nathan know, it was a fatal mistake.
Headmaster, stop the duel! Nathan, yield, please! I yield.
Not enough for me.
Trumpets announced the start of the opening ceremony as the three High Lord houses, the Lightstones, the Ravens, and the Hales, entered the stadium with hundreds of attendants and took their seats at the very front, behind the Duke's own representatives. Next to enter were the 10 smaller noble houses, each one to follow less impressive than the one before. A few houses had several dozen members, but most were fairly small. By far the smallest, of course, was House Hayfield, which entered the stadium last and took seats at the back of the lower stands set aside for nobles. Compared to any of the great High Lord houses, the Hayfield family's decline looked even starker than ever before, considering it was only Ulrich, Amelia, and Nathan, with no attendants by their sides. At this time, one of the Duke's representatives, clad in white and silver robes, stood up and made his way into the center of the dueling square. The roar of the crowd died down as he opened his arms up toward the heavens. His hands clapped together and echoed out over the space, shushing any careless whisperers who failed to pay attention. Finally, when silence fell over the stadium, his voice boomed out to those in the crowd. "My fellow citizens of Godric's-land, the sky is bright and beautiful with no clouds on the horizon. Clearly, the heavens wish to have a good view of our trials this day. As many of you know, this examination is no simple test. Oh, no. This is the day when new lords shall be born, new houses shall rise, and old houses shall fall, all by the grace of the heavens and through the might of the sword. I hereby declare the start of the aristocracy examination." The stadium's crowd went wild as the many thousands clapped and cheered all at once, filling the entire city with thunderous applause. They had all waited for this moment for a decade, and finally it had come. As Nathan took in the enormity of the moment, he caught a glimpse of a man's eyes on him. As he stared down to the very front rows, he spotted the High Lord Raven himself. For the first time, he saw the man who wished to destroy his family. As Remus sneered threateningly at Nathan in return, Nathan merely scoffed with amusement at the man's expression. Nathan knew that, finally, their fates would be decided, and he was relieved that the time of skullduggery and anxiously waiting around was over. After all, one house must rise, while another must fall. It took a long time for the throngs of onlookers in the Godric's Plaza Stadium to quiet down. The host of the event, Duke Godricson's representative, waited for everyone to finish their applause before continuing. "The rules of this nobility examination have not changed since the very beginning, and will not change now. Therefore, I shall move on to the announcement of challenges." This applause was much shorter than the first one, as many recalled how this ceremony worked. The way it usually worked, the status of the three high houses was unshakable, so the day's fun would likely play out with the lower-tiered noble families, the 10 weaker houses whose strength was always in question. Those were the houses that had to often use their blades to keep their family power prevalent. The crowd buzzed with gamblers betting on the outcomes of the matches. Although the lineup of the duels had yet to be announced, the bets were based on the most likely matchups and outcomes. Nathan smiled as he looked above him to where Hilda Moonweaver frantically placed her bets. Nathan turned back to his father and sighed. He knew this was it. Soon, his family would know what he had signed them up for at the registration table. This time, 4 noble houses have been challenged, and 4 common families have issued challenges. Common House Western challenges House Barkley. Common House Mole challenges House Coldbrook. Common House Song challenges House Wellhart. Common House Crane challenges House Hayfield. However, only 3 noble houses have accepted their challenges. House Hayfield has declined to defend its title against the Cranes. Hilda Moonweaver squealed with delight as everyone around her furrowed their brows. Frantic whispers and murmurings cut through the crowd.
I thought the Songs Challenge would be interesting, but what's with House Hayfield giving up its title just like that? This is crazy. Why hand over your land and title so easily?
Why would House Hayfield do this? Don't they hate House Crane because of their allegiance to House Raven?
Carlton Crane and his son John jumped out of their seats in shock. They chest-bumped each other and screamed out victoriously as Ulrich's mouth fell agape. Ulrich whipped around towards Nathan and anxiously gripped his son's hand.
Lad, did you tell me you didn't do this on purpose?
Ulrich's face grew even more puzzled as his mood began to sour. Moments earlier, he was confident that his family stood a good chance at keeping its title, or at least defending it honorably against the Cranes and the Ravens. But now, his expectations were thrown off. If what the host had said was true, Ulrich could only watch as his family's ancestral titles were snatched away from him after a few choice words. Nathan took his father's hand and tried to calm him as Ulrich stood up frantically.
Father, it's all right. Just listen to me. Nathan, if you made a mistake on the registration, or if there's some sort of statistical error, we have to fix it. We should go down to the host and explain it to him immediately. Otherwise, we may be too late.
Amelia frowned at her father's tone.
Nathan, what did you do? What's going on?
Nathan finally stood and faced his father and Amelia.
Father, sister, listen to me, please. Everything will make sense in a moment. Just trust me on this, okay?
Ulrich and Amelia shared a glance. Neither of them could understand why Nathan was so calm and collected at this moment. Sighing, Ulrich reluctantly sat back down and shook his head.
Oh, lad, of course I trust you. It's just, I don't understand it. Just keep listening, Father. Just keep listening.
The murmurs from the crowd grew even louder and more frenzied as the common folk pondered this strange turn of events.
Why wouldn't the Hayfields accept the challenge? Are they really cowards after all?
Of course they didn't accept the challenge. These past few years, their power has waned, and the family line has weakened more and more. I mean, just look at their lineup. Only the 3 of them, and Lady Hayfield isn't a spiritual warrior at all.
Shouldn't matter how weak the family is. The honorable thing to do would be to fight on anyway. What a shameful display from a so-called noble house.
Imagine the look on the faces of all the ancestors of the Hayfield line. They must be frowning up in the heavens as we speak.
The disapproving gazes seared into Ulrich and Amelia as they sat uncomfortably. Both of their faces dripped with perspiration and flushed red from embarrassment. Only Nathan took the disapproving looks with ease, showing almost no reaction whatsoever. The host's clapping echoed out over the arena, silencing the murmurs and bringing all eyes back on him. As I was saying, I shall now announce the last of the challenges that have been put forth. The final challenge of the aristocracy examination is against the High House Raven. The crowd went absolutely wild at the shocking news. Hundreds raced towards the betting stalls and argued with one another. Thousands more whispered about the unexpected turn of events.
What the hell is going on? Who would dare to challenge House Raven?
Whoever they are, they must be courting death.
Whatever the case may be, this fight is going to be awesome.
Out of all the powerful houses in the fiefdom, who would have the guts to challenge House Raven for its lands and title?
Certainly not the Lightstones, right? But they're the only house that could pull it off. Despite the host's best efforts, he could not turn the crowd's attention back onto himself. After all, no one had challenged one of the three high house families in over 100 years. The high houses were simply far more powerful than any of the other houses of the land. The three high lords of the fiefdom had initially acted aloof during the ceremony, but now they all gazed at one another. The High Lord Raven's teeth gritted as he suppressed a grimace and forced himself to act not the least bit concerned by the news. Remus scanned the other High Lords' faces. High Lord Hale looked relieved that his own family had avoided such a challenge, while the High Lord Lightstone appeared much too placid to have offered up the challenge. Remus's hands balled into fists as he sat there, stewing. If it's not an attack from another High Lord, then what is this? What weak scoundrel had the gall to threaten my great house? Finally, the crowd calmed enough for the host's words to carry out across the stadium. And the High House Raven's challenger is none other than House Hayfield. In an instant, Remus's eyes shot up toward the Hayfield family. If looks could kill, the family would have been struck down on the spot. Instead, Nathan confidently matched the furious lord's gaze. Instantly, the crowd's opinion of the Hayfield family changed. People scratched their heads and spoke neutrally, somewhat puzzled by what had just happened. So the Hayfields gave up their own title just so they could challenge the Ravens? That's just insane, though. A truly wild gamble. They know that nobles die in these duels, don't they? House Raven will tear them to bits.
Ah, they're geniuses. Good on House Hayfield. At first, it seemed like they'd given up the fight against their mortal enemies, and now it appears they're prepared to face them head-on.
Wow. Go House Hayfield! What a courageous challenge! Who doesn't love an underdog story, huh?
Rumor has it that House Raven runs their lands cruelly without mercy. If only the Hayfields could overcome them, then many common folks would have cause to celebrate.
In the kingdom of Calandria, the people valued heroism and bravery above all else. Regardless of the end results, the Hayfields had won the admiration and respect of the people already. Despite the fact that there were few in the stadium who wished for House Raven to succeed, many more suspected it was ultimately inevitable. So they took their time to relish this moment when the High Lord Raven's power was openly challenged. The High Lord Raven's face scrunched up as he looked away from Nathan and grimaced at his family members.
How preposterous! To think that some of these peasants actually believe that Hayfields could defeat us. How has House Raven's standing fallen so low? It's good, then, that this challenge gives us an opportunity to remind them of why they must lower their heads in our presence. Members of House Raven cheered him as the High Lord Raven turned back to the Hayfield family. Further up in the stands, Ulrich hugged Nathan as Amelia laughed in delight. Remus's eyes narrowed. Enjoy it while you can, you foolish weaklings, for once the duels begin, even your dumb luck and bravery can't save you from my family's sheer power. Hundreds of family members and attendants of House Raven all shared their lord's gaze. They were hungry to put down this upstart family that dared to threaten their status and power. The host had grown more and more agitated as the crowd's attention wandered from him. Now he clapped louder than ever before, determined to finish his speech. One final note. Should House Raven fail to defend its title, the family would be stripped of all their lands and treated as commoners, just as if a typical noble house were challenged. The High Lord Raven sneered as he shouted at the host. I understand the rules. Move on. Clearly, the Duke's representative was dragging this on to further poke fun at House Raven's misfortune. The host smiled as he nodded his head. Very well, then. At this time, I offer all noble houses an opportunity to speak,
They may reach a verbal agreement with their opposition or declare their desire for bloodshed. If no deals are struck, then the challenges shall be fought through duels. House Raven, you may begin. Remus Raven was already striding out toward the middle of the field. Everyone in the crowd grew silent once more as the powerful lord stood in front of the host and addressed the stadium. His sharp eyes lingered in the Hayfield family's direction as he spoke with a puffed-up chest. Before this moment, I barely knew the puny little Hayfield house even existed. I never expected them to challenge my illustrious house, and yet, here we are. So I hereby declare in front of the citizens of Godric's-land that whoever my opponent is, my house will crush them in combat. They will rue the day they sought to harm us as we break their bones and turn their bodies into ash. Prideful shouts echoed out from the stands where House Raven sat. Remus Raven glanced up at Ulrich and Nathan before stepping aside and heading back toward the stands. It was now time for the Hayfields to respond. Nathan frowned as Ulrich fumbled with a piece of parchment in his hands. It was obvious that Ulrich didn't know what to say. Heavens help us! I only had a speech prepared to defend our claim against the Cranes, not launch a retort at the High Lord Raven himself. Nathan put a comforting hand on his father's shoulder. It's okay, Father. Let me go. I can speak for our house, if you'll permit it. Slowly, Ulrich nodded his head. Nathan stood and walked through the stands down to the dueling grounds. His nonchalant expression and slow, purposeful steps sharply contrasted with Remus's furiously quick movements. As Nathan took his place in the center of the field in front of tens of thousands of faces, he took a quick breath and grinned as he addressed the crowd. Friends, enemies, countrymen, I think you know as well as I do that the reign of House Raven has done us all no good. It's obvious my house has weakened over the years. That much is true. But it matters not how many blades one has on one's belt if one lacks the skill to wield them. I'll not sit back and let the High Lord Raven's mischief cause my family's downfall. If he wishes to steal our land, to bully us, to continue to call us weak, then let him prove it on the battlefield. With a great flourish, Nathan drew his sword and pointed it up toward the heavens. Nathan smiled as the sun shined down upon him, and the crowd went wild, shouting and cheering louder than they ever had before. Nathan Hayfield's heroic words deeply moved the crowd in the stadium. Most of them had felt the weight of House Raven on their shoulders at some point, whether it was the lower house nobles who secretly prayed to avoid Remus Raven's greed-filled gaze, or the common people who were treated like replaceable cattle by his men. They hoped that the Hayfields would somehow come out victorious, however improbable.
Well said, young Master Hayfield. We stand with you. That's right. That's how you do it. Spoken like a true warrior. Despite the odds, that noble kid's got guts. Heavens bless him. If all the houses spoke for the people as House Hayfield does, Godric's-land would be the strongest fiefdom in the realm. It was clear that Nathan's sentiment was extremely popular. Many of the people in the stands were common-born warriors themselves, and they marveled at the young boy's words, knowing full well the incredible might of House Raven and what he would be up against. Spurred on by the support from the crowd, Nathan grinned as he waved his sword in the air and then let it rest, pointing loosely toward House Raven's place in the stands. Nathan did not mince his words as he spoke, for Nathan knew he had the people's hearts behind him. All of us know of the High Lord Raven's greed. All of us know of the sacking of his own villages when they failed to meet his impossible expectations. We've seen the suffering screams of his people and done nothing. Well, no longer. By the end of this examination, I will free those citizens of House Raven's tyranny. Remus Raven responded vehemently to Nathan's last remark. You lying knave!
Shut your stupid yap, or we'll shut it for you. Go ahead and try it, scoundrel. I, Nathan Hayfield, would rather fall to 1,000 cuts than submit to your house's will. If you want to steal my family seat, go ahead and take it. I'd much rather own your title myself. The crowd's jaws dropped. Nobody could believe that such valiant words came from the mouth of a mere 14-year-old boy. The common folk in the audience loved every second of it, spurring on the stare-off between Nathan and Remus.
Well said, young warrior! Well said! Spoken like a true champion of legend.
The bards will forever know this day, that's for sure.
Things have been static for far too long. It's time for the noble houses of Godric's land to prove their power or step aside.
Nathan smiled as he realized what he'd done to the crowd. Thousands roared as they stood up out of their seats and cheered, their blood boiling over from excitement. How could they not admire such a brave young warrior who refused to admit defeat in the face of a great villainous adversary? On top of this, Nathan's strong words began to give the crowd hope that maybe he did, in fact, have the power to overcome House Raven. Some of the more experienced warriors among them could even sense the powerful magic aura brimming from Nathan's body. Meanwhile, the High Lord Raven also sprang from his seat. As he screamed at Nathan from the stands, several of his men held him back.
Mark my words, boy. You'll regret the day you stood against me for the rest of your days. My men will hack down you and your family with ease.
Bring it on. I'm afraid you don't have enough lackeys at your side to satisfy my blade, so it'll have to feast on you as well.
We'll see about that.
Finally, the High Lord Raven shoved aside the men that held him and jumped down into the arena. But rather than go directly to Nathan, he turned to the host of the ceremony.
Host, I have something to ask you. Only family members of the mentioned houses may fight. Is that correct? There are no sellswords or other backers involved in the duels? That is correct, Lord Raven. Families must win their titles with their own strength alone. That has and always will be the law.
That's good to hear. The High Lord Raven visibly relaxed. After all, this meant that the Lightstones could not save the Hayfields this time. Finally, Remus would have a chance to crush Ulrich and his children on the field of battle. The host then turned to Nathan and approached him calmly. Young man, I assume only you and your father wish to fight in the challenge?
Yes, sir, and I shall go first.
The host nodded his head. He had heard of Nathan's previous duels and already believed that the young man was a gifted warrior. Good. Now, you must understand how the ceremony works. The challenge is won over the course of 3 duels. The first duel is 1 versus 1, but after that, if the winner wishes to continue fighting, they must then face 2 opponents, and after that, 3 opponents all on their own.
So what you're saying is, if I wish to fight all 3 duels, I'll have to face 1, then 2, then 3 opponents on my own?
The crowd murmured as the host and Nathan spoke. It was already an impossible task to fight 3 expert warriors of House Raven and live, but to fight a total of 6 warriors was simply impossible. Or, you can always yield and let your father fight a duel. Then, he'd have to face only 1.
Yes, but my blade will likely hunger for more souls than just 1 or 2. I will fight all 3 duels, if possible.
Even as the crowd cheered, the general consensus was that the comfort of Nathan's words would soon fade and be replaced by the sounds of House Hayfield's screams. The general consensus among onlookers was that Nathan's actions, however brave, had cursed his family to an ugly fate and early demise. Most of the stronger families in the land only had 1 high-level swordsman in their households, Even that was usually enough to secure a noble title in the fiefdom of Godric's land. But House Raven was full of dozens of extremely skilled warriors. Any one of them had the ability to strike down any challengers, particularly Nathan and Ulrich. As a result, the crowd's encouragements, though positive, were tinged with sadness.
Good of you, Nathan. Do not shy away from your fate, however dark it may seem.
That's right. So what if it's 1 against 3?
Do not fear death, young warrior, and the heavens shall smile down at you. Go on, House Hayfield. Go on to glory. Even if you fall, we shall all remember you.
As the applause continued, the High Lord Raven scoffed at Nathan.
1 against 3. How preposterous. Ulrich Hayfield could barely manage against 1 of my men, let alone 3. Their blubbering boasts will only get them so far.
Once more, the host cut through the crowd as he announced his final words. Listen up, all. The first challenge duels shall occur tomorrow at dawn, starting with House Coldbrook. The last duel shall be between House Hayfield and House Raven. That is all. I bid you all a good day. The host walked off out of the arena as the crowd broke up and headed back home for the day. Nathan smiled as he sheathed his family's broadsword and met his father's gaze in the crowd. Over the following 2 days, the 4 other challenges were fought in the dueling field beneath the stands of the Grand Stadium. Considering each matchup consisted of 3 duels, the days were long and full of bloodshed. The sounds of the crowds echoed out into the empty streets of the fiefdom's capital whenever a killing blow was struck or when a noble house lost its seat. During this time, Nathan stayed away from the stadium. He had no desire to watch the fights and instead spent his time relaxing, praying to the heavens, and clearing his mind. He reflected on how thankful he was to be in this new, young body, how grateful he was to his new family, and how ready he was to face his sworn enemies. He knew the road ahead would not be easy, but he was confident in his own abilities as he sat in his hotel room and sipped on his dexterity potion. Nathan's brow furrowed. He was not expecting visitors, and he saw his door was open. Where could the knocks be coming from? Soon, he sensed the noise and opened up the second-story window.
Wait, that's not the end. You've just had a free taste. Now get the full story on the Pocket FM app, link in description. Check out our next video and playlist, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.